Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. This talk is about Coquaternion. Biologic medicine as functional invariance or module representing biologic system on molecular, cell, and organ levels. Why Coquaternion?
Yeah, Garri, you need to speak up, please. Like closer to the microphone.
The answer.
Maybe just hold it in your hand, it's easier. You can just pull it out. Just pull it, don't be afraid, it's not going to break.
Yeah, that. That? Okay. Why Coquaternion? So the answer follows from, you see, natural representation of some physiologic mechanisms presented in a matrix form. In biology and medicine, this functional mechanism negative feedback denoted as null, positive feedback denoted as true, and reciprocal links denoted as one, PNR together. Have been known long time ago, not in a matrix form, just in physiologic form, as universal regulatory patterns between two morphological elements, which can be biomolecules, biological cells, biological tissues, organs, and functional systems like cardiovascular, respiratory, endocrine, etc. These matrices are second-order traceless matrices over real number. Corresponding to them, three functional patterns may be so easy interpreted and understood as invariant patterns forming the functional module of biologic system, and at the same time considered to be big blocks for biologic system. For instance, in theoretical physics, all the conception of electron presumes using complex 2x2 traceless matrices to describe property of an electron. Why complex matrices? More likely to obtain real values of agent vectors to measure spin and angular momentum. Due to indefinite metric structure of Coquaternion, associated quadratic form may have positive, negative, and zero values, and corresponding four-dimensional vectors have respectively positive, negative, and zero lengths. Geometrically, Coquaternions correspond to three types of surfaces: hyperboloid of one sheet, or vectors of negative length, hyperboloid of two sheets, vectors of positive length, and double pole. These are vectors of zero length. Each vector is a functional state of the system. 3D surfaces shown in the slide are projections of Coquaternion along identity axis. In biology, PNR positive, negative, and reciprocal links related matrices are considered real, whose agent values can be complex numbers. Practically, PNR matrices are obtained as linearizations of the system of two ordinary differential equations. Some properties follow from phase images. For instance, S1 and S2 matrices are topologically equivalent because trajectories corresponding to one matrix can be smoothly transformed to another. But matrix of negative feedback as zero matrix are topologically distinct from two others. These matrices also basis elements of special linear group special linear Lie algebra of a special linear group, which is a tangent space to the identity element of the special linear group of real numbers. Infinitesimal changes of elements of tangent space algebra elements are approximations to the special linear group elements. PNR base patterns being identical to the base elements of the algebra would also serve as approximations of the regulatory mechanisms of the real system. Three basis matrices are linearly independent. They create three-dimensional linear vector space over real numbers. We can consider SI matrices as fixed linear independent quantities and take them as coordinates for three-dimensional space. In fact, special linear algebra is three-dimensional linear space. So that each functional object or functional pattern obtained experimentally as a traceless 2x2 matrix can be presented after linearization as a linear combination of three base PNR patterns. Each of them will represent any of three known base regulatory patterns relating to morphologically separable units. These two units are examples of functional biologic system with most probably genetically determined PNR bases. The algebra is not closed under multiplication of its elements. Coquaternion is closed as a ring of basis elements and the unit and the identity. So four basis elements form a linear four-dimensional space which is also closed under multiplication of its element. This is non-commutative but still associative structure. Next level Coquaternions, neither commutative nor associative. Coquaternions cannot be considered as a module or functional invariant for morphologically separable structures of biologic systems. Imaginary part of Coquaternions consists of the algebra basis elements as elements of coordinate system for four-dimensional space. SI and unit matrices are equivalent elements. On the other hand, negative feedback matrix as a real matrix has a property of imaginary number. Its square is -1 and its spectrum are two opposite complex agent values. So negative feedback is a matrix of a complex structure of the space of biologic variables or the space of splitters. What does it mean, complex structure of the space? Practically, not theoretically it's complicated. Practically, it means that real operator S0 cannot separate elements of the carrier space and work on them as a point of the two-dimensional plane of real coordinate system. So S0 cannot separate two-dimensional objects to present them in direct sum of one-dimensional invariant subspaces. So S0 works on two-dimensional objects, considering them as a whole irreducible space. Practical example is pituitary thyroid regulatory structure. It's provided by negative feedback loops. Pituitary is a gland located in the brain and it produces that thyroid stimulating hormone. Everyone knows this test as examining a function of thyroid gland. When TSH is high, thyroid is hyperfunctioning. TSH is low, then thyroid gland is overactive. This is a classical example of negative feedback. We have two anatomically separated structures, though, and the values of produced by them hormones can be shown by two orthogonal axes. The nature of pituitary thyroid regulation is that negative feedback cannot regulate them separately. There is no one-dimensional subspace over real numbers presented by negative feedback loops. Each point on the plane is condition of two-element system considered as a whole system. Any regulatory trajectory shows simultaneous changes of two variables. Negative feedback obviously creates vertical structure or hierarchy between two elements. How to separate pituitary and thyroid function? Is any one-dimensional operator could be obtained or exist with this problem? It should exist because of two anatomically separable organs, pituitary and thyroid. It exists if other operators also regulate pituitary-thyroid interactions. For example, it may have the form of diagonal matrix of reciprocal links added to the negative feedback matrix. It may reduce the space and present it as a direct sum of one-dimensional subspaces. But in real life, this matrix is blocked, and it's hard to find it experimentally. So, just on clinical practice, only negative feedback is obvious as other regulating function of these two organs. But because they are anatomically separate, it means that there should be something else regulating their function, linking them. Composition of functions of biologic systems is based on the property of traceless 2x2 matrices to be written as a sum of PNR bases or S0, S1, and S2 matrices, the sum coefficients. Now we consider two-element system regulated by combination of basis functions in our patterns, acting on elements of carrier vector space. The carrier space is the space of biologic variables. These variables are observables of biologic system, which can be measured experimentally in real system. These are, for instance, physiologic constants. So, regulatory states of the two-element system will be associated with 2x2 traceless matrices. The core of stem element, bottom orange cylinder, is regulated by morphologically not separable functional elements. In comparison with two-dotted differentiated system considered together. For instance, biomolecules are separable elements within biologic cells on molecular level. But any two cells, microscopically, are indistinguishable in terms of forming them molecules. Distinguishable property begin to appear on the level of cells inclusions, organelles, like cells nuclei, Golgi, apparatus, and etc. If a biological stem cell system splits into two subsystems, we also consider that three bases indistinguishable for a certain level patterns are also split. Inner structure of the progenitor stem cell also transforms in a way to provide functional links between two split elements to maintain general structure presented in the progenitor. Formally, Euclidean three-dimensional space is an isotropic space, meaning that any direction could be considered more acceptable than other direction. If the coordinate system is created by equivalent elements regarding their linear independence, S0 is a matrix associated with symplectic structure of the carrier space, is a matrix associated with symplectic structure, while S2 and S1 are matrices of the hyperbolic structure of the space. These two constructions provide a mechanism to create horizontal and vertical links determining a hierarchy of the developing biological system model. S0 presumes the existence of two-dimensional spatial splitters the same as S2. Altogether, these operators create a four-dimensional space over real numbers. S0 and S2 has topologically the same structure for the plane if they are considered as two topological coordinate axes, and S0 is an axis orthogonal to the plane. Now, let the root of initial branch of field of the genetic tree be associated with a system of some undetermined internal structure. In this case, the system is a black box, is only can be characterized by input and output and realized in function by a single operator A, scalar, which transform input to the output. For being differentiated, not separated yet morphologically, two-element system, operator A in orthonormal basis will be presented by the 2 by 2 in general configuration matrix over real numbers. This matrix is A. A, as a matrix of the second order ordinary differential equation, represents simple linear internal functional structure of a biologic system of two elements. Elements should satisfy system requirements. Together they must form self-regulatory unit. It means operator on functional element will not transfer the result out of the considered structure. In our case, the structure is Coquaternion. At the same time, these regulatory actions will keep system stable. Similar to A, diagonal matrix A' will have two eigenvalues obtained as solution of characteristic equation. A' will indicate the property of the system to be presented as two separable subsystems with eigenvalues as input-output characteristics of split subsystems. Formally, it could be finalized as a direct sum of operators dividing the carrier space into two invariant subspaces. This property can be considered as a physiologic basis for biological differentiation involved in systemogenesis as a program of individual development towards more complex structure. The second order self-adjoint traceless operator over real numbers will be considered in this case, because operators are acting on pseudo-Euclid space due to indefinite metric associated with Coquaternion. They may have either diagonal or skew-symmetric spectrum over real numbers. Spectrum of an operator will determine partition of the space of biologic variables, so it will tell us whether it may separate the space into two one-dimensional invariant subspaces and act on each of them independently, or consider operating on a two-dimensional space as irreducible space over R. In orthonormal basis, a matrix of an operator for a two-element system having separable or molecular but not on cell level subsystem has a form shown the upper left. The space of the second order matrices over R is isomorphic to the space of Coquaternion. So there is an isomorphism between these two structures. Basis elements of Coquaternion are presented as four second-order unit matrices with entries combined from coefficients. Therefore, Coquaternion can be associated with the regulatory functional structure of a two-element system, and matrix A can be written in the equivalent form. Obtained matrix represents regulatory structure of the system as combination of four basis regulatory patterns. Similarity transformation of A will present a Coquaternion coefficients as a diagonal or scoodiagonal real entries in case the roots of characteristic equation are complex numbers. For the second order matrices over real numbers, only four Jordan canonical forms exist. The roots eigenvalues of the characteristic equation associated with matrix A of Coquaternion, A with lambda 1 and 2. And these lambdas are eigenvalues of the similar to Q diagonal matrix Q prime relative to the simultaneously transformed basis vectors. New vectors, splitters or co-splitters, obtained as linear combination of the initial basis element. These are not physical schemers. For simplicity, we can skip the unit element of Coquaternion and leave the imaginary part provided by SE basis, making Q prime traceless matrix. This technique assigns invariant subspaces to scalar eigenvalues, which can only be interpreted as outcomes values associated with subsystems, considered as a whole unit with undetermined undifferentiated elements. Internal functional structure of subsystem remains uncertain and can only be treated for each subsystem as a black box. In order to demonstrate splitting of each base P, M, and R patterns of the root module, elements, and their actions on differentiation subsystem as separated patterns, we have to present base patterns as independent quantities. Formally speaking, they don't have to be united by a square root followed from the characteristic equation. The following is according to the Dirac's approach in his relativistic energy equation. Consider an equation which is shown on the outer line, where the left side are the roots of the characteristic equation. The question is whether some A, B, and gamma quantities exist such that their linear combination will be equal and can represent the square roots of characteristic equation and eigenvalues. It follows that A, B, and gamma should be non-commutating quantities, and under certain additional conditions on these quantities, we obtain 4x4 Hermite matrices. It means that eigenvalues for diagonal elements can be represented not only as scalars, but also as linear combinations of 4x4 Hermite unitary matrices with scalar coefficients. These matrices show that one-dimensional operators with scalar entries for each of two differentiated subsystems are equivalent to the second-order operator 2x2 matrices whose entries are same scalars as for previously considered not differentiated functional pattern of basis elements. It is easy to see that obtained 4x4 matrices also have 2x2 block matrices. Matrix structure is amorphic to SI basis element. So, hierarchy of a functional structure of biologic system is provided by PNR invariant patterns applied to a structural module, which in this case include two hierarchical levels. This level characterize a biologic system and the universal structural and functional module. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Garri. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Garri?
Can you give?
I do have a comment. So you're working on biological data, correct?
I'm working on biological and mathematical together.
So what I
not separate one from another.
What I've learned from working with him, just with data in general, there are indeed hyper-complex relationships between behaviors inside of a system that has a lot of dependent relationships. I just want to say, I would also like to give you the tool to do least squared regression on your data. That'll help.
Yeah, hyper-complex, but this one is a little bit different. It's also hyper-complex, but split complex structure.
Yes, I saw that as well.
So this is a little bit different from
I just want to make sure everybody leaves here today
which used in
with the
physics.
tool they need. I said I want to make sure everybody leaves here today with the tool they need to analyze these data structures. So I would like to just give you my email. Don't worry about it, sorry.
No, I can't hear you. So you just telling me that it's good to analyze these matrices, how they work.
I want to give you the least squares solution so you can analyze quaternionic events in your data to see if there's solutions amongst them.
Quaternion.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I
I'm
promise.
not worried.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Our JMM, it's a special session on quaternions, and I really want to thank everybody for attending, and I want to thank all the participants for attending and giving their presentations. Thank you very much, and I hope to see many of you, or all of you, next time, next year in San Francisco.
Yay.